KSL weather. Clouds clear up this afternoon, and Tuesday should be mostly sunny with a high of 45. There's a chance of rain on Thursday, possibly changing to snow on Friday. Right now, partly cloudy, 43 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We learned yesterday that former First Lady of the United States, Rosalynn Carter, passed away at the age of 96. We want to examine this extraordinary life, pay tribute to a remarkable woman, and someone who you may not know actually helped reshape the role of the First Lady. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Rosalynn Carter was an extraordinary individual, a real partner to her husband and former President Jimmy Carter. And what many people don't recognize is that she actually was a driving force, not just in his White House, but in reshaping the role of the First Lady and adding a number of things that are now kind of standard issue when it comes to the First Lady or First Spouse, as it will someday be, and looking at how that all takes shape. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to do two things. We're going to look back at the life and legacy of Rosalynn Carter, often referred to as the Steel Magnolia, which I think is so appropriate for Mrs. Carter. And then we'll also look, coming up at 1:20, to several First Ladies and their influence on the country and what that will look like moving forward as well. And so let's start with Rosalynn Carter's Steel Magnolia. She did have that Southern charm, of course, from Plains, Georgia, but she also had that steel, that steel component that was so important to the country and was so important to her husband in his role as a naval officer, as a governor, and as President of the United States. Of course, a lot of the Carter legacy was found and known to many of us by what they did beyond the White House. I think they really set a new bar in terms of post-White House impact and influence through their various philanthropic endeavors, the Carter Center, of course, Habitat for Humanity, and a host of other things. And so let's dig into a little bit of the life and legacy of the Steel Magnolia, the lady from Plains, Georgia, Rosalynn Carter. During a speech at the Carter Center, one of the most prominent institutions of philanthropy in our country, Mrs. Carter reflected on her marriage and her partnership with the former president, Jimmy Carter.
That is the beginning of a wonderful romance, and I can say 68, exciting, loving, interesting, unpredictable, challenging, and I could go on years. And over the years, we've become not only friends and lovers, but partners.
True partners, and of course, their life continued, their marriage 77 years now at her passing. That's a mark that I don't think will be met by any president and first spouse for generations to come. When former President Jimmy Carter won the Nobel Peace Prize, he was asked on a television appearance if it was the most exciting moment in his life. And without hesitation, without pause, he actually had something a little different in mind. It wasn't anything related to his presidency.
Is this the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you? Or I guess being elected president of the United States must be right up there as well, right?
Well, when Rosalynn said she'd marry me, I think that's the most exciting thing.
Oh, my God.
And that was classic Jimmy Carter as well. And they really were a tag team. They often talked about being equally yoked that way, of being partners on so many different things. Rosalynn Carter participated in a series of interviews that C-SPAN did a few years ago, talking to the First Ladies of America. She was, of course, a longtime advocate for mental health issues, really ahead of the curve on that, real forerunner, created space for a lot of mental health conversations to happen in this country. She said in this interview that she hoped she would be remembered for her advocacy as much as her time as First Lady.
Well, I hope my legacy continues more than just First Lady, because Carter Center's been an integral part of our lives, I would think, and our motto is waging peace, fighting disease, and building hope. I hope that I have contributed something to mental health issues and help improve a little bit the lives of people living with mental illnesses.
She really was the first lady to have that kind of advocacy role in that particular space. And again, back in the 70s, that was not a conversation we normally had in public. And she did really pave the way and chart the path there in terms of a different kind of conversation about mental health and mental health issues. And that legacy continues on today. During that same interview, she reflected on the charity work that the Carter Center had participated in to improve the health of people, not just here in the United States, but around the world, and how that work had touched her most personally.
One of the good things about the Carter Center is we don't give money to the government. We send people in to help people in that country how to do something. And we work with the people in the villages. And they do the work. And the hope it gives to them, most of the time it's the first thing they have ever seen that was successful. And it's just so wonderful just to see the hope on their faces that something good is happening.
I think that was a really stunning comment there from Rosalynn Carter, that she would go in and they wouldn't give money just to governments, which is so interesting that here's someone who functioned in the highest spaces of government, and of course was a real influence in her husband's administration, attended cabinet meetings, really reshaped and reframed what the First Lady's role would be. And she said that, going into these countries, it wasn't about giving money to the governments, but it was going in and educating people on what was possible and helping them create their own programs to deal with all kinds of issues, whether it was poverty, whether it was shelter, water, mental health. They were all part of that. And it wasn't about just handing over money to government. It was getting it into community. And the way she talked about that was such great emotion that seeing that hope in the faces of people around the world was important. I think really transformed her, and I think transformed her husband. And I think that's why their legacy will always be remembered, not just for their time, their 4 years in the White House, but their time beyond that, showing something that I think we all should remember when we think about those who seek the highest office of the land. And yes, we will have a first gentleman at some point in our nation's history. But that first couple does have a role to play. And being able to see them and what they would do outside of the White House is the real question. Since we are in election season, one of the things I always tell people they should think about before casting a vote for anybody, for any office, is how would this person make a difference outside of office? And the Carters have demonstrated for long years now what that looks like. It didn't matter the 4 years in the White House. What mattered is everything they did after that. From 1980 to 2023, Rosalynn and Jimmy Carter have been out making a difference in the world. Not resting on their laurels, not thinking they had achieved the highest elements of power, but finding other ways to do that. I would also note that Rosalynn Carter really did reshape that First Lady role. She was the first to have an established office in the East Wing of the White House. She really paved the way to have her own chief of staff, which is now commonplace for First Ladies, that they have their own staff, their own office, their own agenda. Rosalynn Carter also took significant trips on behalf of her husband. She went on an extensive trip, 14-day trip through South America, met with government leaders across there on a wide range of issues, and really became an important sounding board. Also was someone who had great insight, and she was the steel portion of the velvet and steel combination that the Carters have been for so many years now. Well, we're going to continue and stay with the conversation. We've been looking at the life and legacy of Rosalynn Carter, who, of course, passed away yesterday. An amazing life, an amazing influence on our country, and an amazing influence on the role of the first couple and the First Lady in particular. When we come back, we're going to stay with the conversation a little bit longer, and we'll look at the influence of some of the other First Ladies of this country and the legacy that they leave and the influence they've had, not just on their spouses, but on the country and on the world.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. This week,
I'm a conservative.
I like the independents.
The person that we like is on the ballot.
your voice, your vote, 2023.
We voted. I wasn't going to miss it.
It takes almost no time at all.
Get coverage all day today and tomorrow, and all the results and reactions Wednesday. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Every year I tell myself, Doug, you can't procrastinate. It's time to get into Burt Brothers. Make sure that the vehicle I drive, the vehicles that Dee drives, and our family vehicles are all ready for winter. And Burt Brothers, boy, as these temperatures start to drop, soon the snowflakes are going to fall, the roads are going to be slick. You need peace of mind on Utah's snowy roads. Winter tires from Burt Brothers, they make all the difference. You can drive with confidence. Specialized tires designed to grip the road in the harshest conditions. They give you better traction, handling, shorter braking distances, and the gift of safety for you and your loved ones. And right now, save up to $130 back on 4 Bridgestone Blizzak tires through December 16th. That's only at Burt Brothers with complete auto care. They can take care of it all. Make sure you're not off on the side of the road with a little help from your friends at Burt Brothers. And there's a location for Burt Brothers near you.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm Tamron Hall. Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious, farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, with more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Pelvic congestion syndrome, or pelvic venous congestion, is an important but often overlooked cause of chronic pelvic pain. It's estimated that up to 30% of patients with chronic pelvic pain may actually suffer from a symptomatic pelvic venous disorder. IVC, the leading interventional vascular and vein center in Utah for over 15 years, is here to help. Typical symptoms of pelvic venous congestion include dull achiness and heaviness in the pelvis, often made worse by prolonged standing. Well, it can often be successfully treated with a minimally invasive procedure called embolization. Pelvic venous embolization requires little or no downtime and is performed in an outpatient setting. Nearly 85% of women treated experience significant relief of their symptoms. If you suffer from the symptoms of pelvic venous congestion, let the experts at IVC help. Visit iVein.com for more or call 801-379-6700 today. As IVC has been saying for years, life starts when the pain stops.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, former Salt Lake City Mayor Rocky Anderson wants his old job back. Voters making their choice this week. Second, BYU's women's soccer team continued its march toward an NCAA championship with a win on Saturday. And third, traffic is moving again along the I-10 in Los Angeles just a week after a fire did heavy damage to the traffic lanes. Right now, 43 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson, and the passing of former First Lady Rosalynn Carter at the age of 96 has me thinking about a lot of the First Ladies and the role of First Ladies in the White House. We haven't had a First Gentleman yet. We'll come back to that in just a minute. But the role of the first spouse has evolved over the years, and it was actually very interesting. A lot of people didn't recognize this, that Rosalynn Carter really did reshape and redefine the role of the First Lady, and actually went back to her first given name, which is actually Eleanor Rosalynn Carter. And she actually hearkened back to another Eleanor Roosevelt, who before the Carters was really probably the biggest force in the White House as a first spouse. Rosalynn Carter, of course, went on to attend cabinet meetings, do travel for the president, was an active part, of course, in all the campaigns throughout that storied career, from the Navy to the governor's mansion in Georgia all the way to the White House. And then, of course, their incredible work at the Carter Center for years with Habitat for Humanity and others. She was a real driving force there. But I want to go back through some of the other First Ladies and their unique influence on the United States and on the world. One of the things that we have talked about on this show in the past that most people don't recognize or remember, and that is that it was actually Eleanor Roosevelt who first addressed the nation following Pearl Harbor on December 7th. She had her own radio program way back then. She was a voice in the country. She had a point of view. She had something to say and something to frame and share as it related to the country. So take a listen to this. Her husband often gets the most credit for his speech following Pearl Harbor and a day that would live on in infamy. But it was Eleanor Roosevelt who I think actually gave the better speech on her radio program. Here's just a snippet of that.
In the meantime, we, the people, are already prepared for action. We must go about our daily business more determined than ever to do the ordinary things as well as we can. And when we find a way to do anything more in our communities, to help others, to build morale, to give a feeling of security, we must do it.
That was Eleanor Roosevelt following Pearl Harbor. And again, she had a weekly radio show. She acknowledged the tragic events. She said, we have to come together. She revealed her own anxiety. She had a son in the service who was at sea. She was worried about her other children who lived on the West Coast. And then she proceeded. She spoke to the military. She spoke to the women of the country. And she spoke to the young people of the nation who would need to step up. And she declared that the rock of her faith for our future was in her fellow citizens. Very powerful, and one that I don't think we actually appreciate enough. If you want to listen to something great today, go listen to her entire speech on that radio address following Pearl Harbor. It is one for the ages, really extraordinary. I actually think it was better than her husband Franklin Roosevelt's speech following Pearl Harbor. Hillary Clinton also played a very active role. Here she is at the UN in Beijing in 1995 talking about women's rights.
If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all. And among those rights are the right to speak freely and the right to be heard. Women must enjoy the rights to participate fully in the social and political lives of their countries if we want freedom and democracy to thrive and endure.
Michelle Obama also worked closely with her husband, and I would just note that all of these first ladies, I don't know that we've had a first lady that didn't get criticized in some way, shape, or form for the influence they had on their spouse. I think that usually came from the press or from opponents of an opposite political party who didn't like that or who was just looking for a wedge issue there. Michelle Obama worked very closely with President Obama, often traveling the country with him. She often talked about the privilege it is to travel the country and what she saw in the American people.
Over the past few years as First Lady, I have had the extraordinary privilege of traveling all across this country, and everywhere I've gone and the people I've met and the stories I've heard, I have seen the very best of the American spirit. I have seen it in the incredible kindness and warmth that people have shown me and my family, especially our girls. I've seen it in teachers in a near bankrupt school district who vowed to keep teaching without pay.
That was Michelle Obama, one of my favorite first ladies who had a big influence on the nation, Barbara Bush. She became everyone's favorite grandmother and mother. She was heavily involved in all of the political campaigns, many of the crucial decisions during the George H.W. Bush era. But I want to go to a speech that she delivered in 1990. This was at Wellesley College. It was a commencement speech, and she really challenged the students to step up, to do something a little bit more.
Believe in something larger than yourself, to get involved in some of the big ideas of our time. I chose literacy because I honestly believe that if more people could read, write, and comprehend, we would be that much closer to solving so many of the problems that plague our nation and our society.
So each of these first ladies had an agenda, had something that they believed in, that they thought was important, that they focus on. For Barbara Bush, of course, it was literacy and making sure that people had that ability. And I love the fact that she challenged these graduates at Wellesley College there in 1990, that their learning was really just beginning, that they needed to keep learning, that they need to keep reading and studying, because that's how you solve and can tackle the big issues of the day. And then in classic Barbara Bush fashion, she also inserted at the close of her remarks in 1990 a little lighthearted quip in terms of future people who may go to the White House as the first spouse.
Who knows? Somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps and preside over the White House as the president's spouse, and I wish him well.
And that was a big moment and a big line from Barbara Bush, anticipating when we will have a first in the White House, as we have a first female president and a first gentleman that will oversee the East Wing of the White House and have their staff to do that. But all of this to bring it full circle back to the extraordinary life of Rosalynn Carter, who showed, again, that there was an important role. Often we look at that first spouse role, and in terms of influence, it probably has to be the most influential non-elected position that there is. Because you think of all the conversations that go on, all of the things that come across the desk and then get talked about over dinner or on a plane or in a car ride. All of those things happen during those kinds of conversations. And I think Rosalynn Carter showed that she could navigate that in not being too heavy-handed, but being strong. She was often referred to as President Carter's sounding board. The steel to the velvet and steel combination. She had that Southern charm that was very disarming, but make no mistake, there was steel under those velvet gloves, which gave her that wonderful moniker as the Steel Magnolia coming out of Plains, Georgia. And so as we look at her life and her legacy, and of course, as the former president is continuing his own hospice care, a difficult time, a challenging moment, of course, for them. But 77 years of marriage, that's extraordinary. But most important, their time in the White House mattered. It made a difference. But more important, they showed that it's leading from all points of the compass. You don't have to be in the White House to make a difference. You can be anywhere on the compass if you choose to come together, be equally yoked, and then go out and make something important happen. So big thanks for the life and legacy of the Steel Magnolia, Rosalynn Carter. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. When we come back, more Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Stick around.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Salt Lake County had to cut some checks today after a few employees with the county sheriff's office were shorted on their most recent payday. KSL News Radio's Jessica Lowell has the story.
More than 300 employees were shorted on their last paycheck Thursday after a glitch in Salt Lake County's absence recording system. The system removed all overtime that employees had accrued since January, which in turn made it look like they had been overpaid for the last 11 months. What looked like extra pay was removed from their paychecks. On average, those 300 employees were shorted $190, but the most an employee was shorted was $1,300.
The county says they're cutting paper checks today to make up the difference for those employees. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made a surprise visit to Kyiv today, assuring President Zelensky there that the United States is supporting Ukraine for the long haul in its war with Russia. Austin later telling reporters the conflict has global implications.
This is about not living in a world where a dictator can wake up one day and decide to annex the property of his peaceful neighbor. That's not the world that we want to live in.
Austin says the United States is giving Ukraine another $100 million in aid, including anti-tank weapons and cold weather gear for winter warfare. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day at 259 points right now. The NASDAQ is up 172. And our KSL weather looks like we'll see a sunny Tuesday, great travel day, but rain and possibly snow arriving later in the week. KSL News Time, 1:31.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hey, it is your time to make a difference. Did you know that 1 in 10 Utah children struggle with hunger? Well, you can make a difference today with Macy's annual Harvest of Hope Drive. This is an opportunity for you to make a difference for the Utah Food Bank and for those children in Utah that are struggling with hunger and food insecurities. It's so simple to do. You can go into any Macy's. You can go right to the register as you're checking out, make a donation. You can purchase prepackaged bags of food that include all the items that the food bank needs the most, and you can actually do it right now. You can do it right now. Just whip out your phone, pull up your computer screen, go to Macy's.com. You can donate online right there. Macy's Harvest of Hope. Everything gets donated directly to the Utah Food Bank. And again, this is your opportunity to make a difference for those children in Utah that have food insecurities. It's Harvest of Hope time. Make a difference today. Go to any Macy's locations or go to Macy's.com.
Imagine how inconvenient your life would be without power. No lights, no refrigeration, no heating or cooling, and no electronics. But with a Generac home standby generator, you'll have the power when you need it most. Generac generators automatically provide backup after sensing a power outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Schedule a free quote today with Genco Generators, your premier Generac service dealer in Utah. Call 801-295-0872 or online at gencogenerators.net.
Fed Up Kitchen is Utah's premier healthy meal prep service, and their annual Black Friday BOGO sale is back and healthier than ever. Here's how it works. Buy one 4-week meal program, get another 4 weeks half off. That's 2 weeks of delicious and healthy meals for free. Made fresh daily, Fed Up Kitchen helps you reach your health goals with their macro-friendly, gluten-free meals that will save you time and money. The best part is there's no cooking required. Simply store your meals in the fridge, heat, and eat. With the new year around the corner, there's no better time to start prepping your health goals for 2024 and set yourself up for success. So what are you waiting for? Get 2 weeks of free healthy meals with Fed Up Kitchen's Black Friday BOGO sale. Offer ends Monday, December 4th. Place your order online now at fedupkitchen.com. Eat better, feel better, live better with Fed Up Kitchen. fedupkitchen.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Pretty quiet out on your roads. Valley Freeway traffic looking good. No problems there. Your main secondaries also in good shape. Want a timeless gift this holiday? Visit Park City Gallery Association's Evening Gallery Stroll, November 24th. Support local business and artists and do it in a festive way. Details at parkcitygalleryassociation.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. Clouds clear up this afternoon. Tuesday should be mostly sunny with a high of 45. Then a chance of rain on Thursday, possibly changing to snow on Friday. And right now we're at 45 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson.
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, you know, we only talk about politics on this show so we can explore society, and we explore society so we can get to the principles and the people who live them and who are out there making a difference. And tomorrow kicks off a very special tradition, the giving machines that become available for people to donate, continue the work, changing lives this holiday season. The charity effort sponsored and funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's part of the church's Light the World campaign. And it's just one of those amazing things that we all can be a part of. We talk about it every day on this show. Do something that makes a difference. And we are just thrilled to have in studio with us today someone who's going to actually be performing as they kick things off at City Creek Center tomorrow. Madeline Page, many of you will say, I know that. Madeline, of course, is an American pop singer, songwriter from right here in the state of Utah. Gained some national prominence on The Voice back in season number 6 and has just been often making things happen ever since. And Madeline, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And what an amazing thing to be the one who gets to kick off the giving machines and this Light the World campaign. Give us the backstory. How did you end up in this?
Oh, man, well, I feel really, really lucky that I get to be a part of it and that I do get to be there at the opening because I've always seen them every year. I've seen the giving machines and I've loved what they are for. And so I feel very honored. And I think it was just connection to connection to connection, I guess. People heard about me somehow, some way, and they wanted me to come sing. So.
Oh, well, I can't think of a better way to get that all rolling. And I think using your unique gifts as a way to kick that off tomorrow at City Creek is going to be extraordinary. And so as you look at that, we know there's a wide range of things that people can do. There's lots of charities that are involved. Just kind of give us that high-level view in terms of what does this look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the giving machine, I think a lot of people don't know. I didn't know this before, but many charities are involved with the giving machines. And so they actually help these charities, and it's really, really cool. This last week I got to go and I got to visit a couple of them and learn about them and tour the facilities. And it was just really eye-opening for me. And I feel like I've not only do I get to perform at the opening of the giving machines, but I got to learn more about the individual people that they're helping. And it's not just I think before I thought it was just like families and stuff like that, but it's actually like so much broader than that. It was really, really cool to see.
So big and global now too as well, which is so amazing. So you'll be part of this event tomorrow, kicking it off here at City Creek in downtown Salt Lake City.
Yes.
What are you going to share tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I'm going to sing a little mix of pop music and Christmas music because, you know, it's basically Christmas time now.
As you can tell, we've got the studio decorated just for you today.
Yes, which I love. I love. It's making me really excited to decorate my house. And yeah, I just feel like Christmas music feels very aligned with the giving machines for me. It's the time of giving, you know, the holiday season. So yeah, I thought it only made sense to sing some Christmas songs.
Well, it's such a powerful thing, and I love the way it unites communities, not just here in the state of Utah, but all around the world. I actually have to brag on my grandsons, who are 9 and 7. They went out and have been raising money so they can come to the giving machine tomorrow and do something.
I love that.
So that's their way to make a difference. They actually did it in a cool way. They actually gave away free hot chocolate and cider on their street, and then if people wanted to donate, they could.
And
they
love
raised
that.
all
That's
kinds of money,
amazing.
and so they're going to come down and they're going to do that as well. And I just love the way it brings the community together and so many important things. So give us your message. This is your chance to give your Christmas message to the world. What should people be thinking about as we roll into this holiday season?
Yeah, well, this actually makes me think about just the things that I'm grateful for. That's kind of where my mind has been. Particularly my brother and his family, they actually just had like a house fire but they're all okay and they're safe. And so that kind of got me thinking about all the things in my life that I'm grateful for and how you never know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And so just tell your loved ones that you love them every single day and don't waste a second spending time with the people who matter the most and also doing what you love. And I think there's something about Christmas time that really puts things into perspective and puts the focus on the things that matter the most. And so that would be my message. Just, focus on that.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we have Madeline Page, American pop singer, songwriter from the state of Utah. She's going to be kicking things off, Light the World, the Giving Machines tomorrow at City Creek. And that's just the beginning of the beginning. It's such an amazing thing. All the funds that are raised, 100% of those donations go towards that effort to light the world during the holiday season. Before I let you go, though, Madeline, give us a little perspective on your career and where you are. I know you've been traveling. You're opening up for various acts around the country. Give us some perspective there.
Yeah, so I have had the privilege of doing so many different cool performances since I was on The Voice 10 years ago, which is
I can't believe it
crazy.
was 10 years ago.
Neither can I. It's insane. And I actually met my husband, who's here right now, and we met on The Voice, so pretty crazy. But so my husband and
We
I...
have to do a whole show on that.
We do, I know. It's a pretty wild story. People ask how we met, and it's like there's no normal way to say it. So... But my husband and I will be doing a lot to come in the future, which is really exciting because he's a musician and also I do a lot of original music, so that's my main focus, and songwriting. I'm in the studio all the time doing that. That's one of my favorite things to do. So that, along with performing, and I just try to do music that's inspiring but also relevant and that, people, it's catchy, pop music, but yeah, I just want to show that you don't have to release pop music and sacrifice any standards. Like you can, do inspiring stuff that makes people feel good.
Love that. The principles. It always comes back to those principles. So thanks for modeling what that looks like and what that sounds like, because we need more of that kind of positive focus in the world. Madeline Page, American pop singer and songwriter, going to be part of an amazing thing as the Giving Machines kick off tomorrow at City Creek. It'll be an amazing performance. You can come hear some of what Madeline just described in terms of some of that positive music and impact, and then come down and engage in the Giving Machine. If you haven't done that before, it's amazing. You can do anything for any of these different charities that you talked about, buying chickens and goats for someone, or whether it's helping out some of those other extraordinary nonprofits that are making such a difference out there in the world.
Yes.
Madeline, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you tomorrow over at City Creek. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, fantastic. As always, we talk about do something today that makes a difference. This is your chance to do that. The Giving Machines, part of the Light the World campaign from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Be part of that. Do something that makes a difference. And if you go tomorrow, you'll get to hear Madeline sing, and that'll make your day as well. We'll be right back.
You may be traveling this week by plane, train, or automobile.
You ever traveled by bus before? Your mood's probably not going to improve much.
No matter how you travel, KSL will keep you moving in the rush to Thanksgiving. Get where you need to go, when you need to get there. Use traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, mornings and afternoons on KSL News Radio.
Tonight at 10. Ever felt trapped in a group text?
You get it from family, friends.
Not only is it annoying,
your phone is just ping, ping, ping.
It can have serious effects.
We have limits on how much we can process at one time.
New research shows it's extra hard on women. KSL's Deanie Wimmer digs into the dilemma.
It's real. It is real.
To help you take control of technology without ruining relationships. Group text overload alert. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
This Thanksgiving at Total Wine & More, find Pinot Noirs and Cabernets that you adore. Our helpful guides are so friendly and nice, So many bottles to try at the lowest price. So gather with friends as you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
Life is full of change and uncertainty. Sometimes it feels impossible to know what to focus on or who to listen to. In his new book, Heart of the Matter, What 100 Years of Living Has Taught Me, President Russell M. Nelson sheds light on how we can find meaning in mortality, how to focus on what really matters. Pulling from a century of life experience as a surgeon, father, and prophet, he reassures readers that there really are unchanging truths that can anchor us in an ever-changing world. Get yours today at a Deseret bookstore or deseretbook.com.
Earlier this summer, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and that was very concerning for me because of some family history that went along with it. But I asked the doctor, is it reversible? And he said, yeah, if you act now. So one of the things I needed to do was lose weight. So what I did is I started my SOTA weight loss journey 6 weeks ago, and in the last 6 weeks, I have dropped just under 30 pounds of fat weight, and I feel great. The best part of it all is I went to and had my blood drawn yesterday. And when I got it back, my A1C, which it marks your blood sugar and it's what tells you if you're diabetic, was half of what it was back at the beginning of June. And that is for certain because of the things that have happened based on the benefits from SOTA weight loss. So I want you to go to sotaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com, and check out the reviews of the 8,200 other people who have been positively affected by SOTA as I have. I've been averaging 5 pounds a week lost, just under that, over 6 weeks.
Hi, this is Congressman John Curtis. I know it can be stressful waiting for an answer from a government agency. If you live in Utah's 3rd Congressional District and you need help with a passport, the VA, IRS, Social Security, or any other federal agency, come to my outreach open house. Join us at Holiday City Hall on Tuesday, November 21st, anytime from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. I'll kick the event off at 4:30 with a brief update on Congress, and then my team will be available to meet with you. Come meet my amazing caseworkers and staff. Get help with the government agency. Sign up for a one-on-one with me. Learn about internship opportunities, grant applications, congressional accommodations, and so much more. Come see why my team was recently ranked #1 in Congress. Oh yes, and refreshments will be served. Hope to see you there.
Paid for by the MRA of Congressman John Curtis.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Advanced Window Products is having their biggest sale of the year. If your old windows let the winter cold seep in, now's the time to get the highest quality double-pane windows and custom insulated frames. Advanced Window Products is a local company that crafts beautiful precision frames right here in Salt Lake City for 37 years. And the magic is, they cut out the middleman. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So you save on the highest quality windows and frames. Any style, any color, any questions? Yes, financing. They offer 60-month 0% financing. They'll even let you put off the first payment up to 2 years, and while that's tempting to think about, the reason to call them right now is the biggest sale of the year. This month only, when they do your entire home of 10 windows or more, you get $3,500 off plus a free premium glass upgrade. So call Advanced Window Products right now, 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or advancedwindowsusa.com.
Dear Santa, thank you for brightening up my Christmas. It made it a lot better. Thank you for the shoes. I'm very grateful for the presents because I usually don't get too much. So that really brightens this year up for me. Also, on behalf of my mother, thank you.
At KSL, it's our hope that every child will have a warm and joyful holiday season. Please donate generously to KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
Every dollar raised goes to buy shoes and warm clothes for Utah children in need. Give what you can at KSLQuarters.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, more than 300 employees of the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office got shorted on their paychecks last week. They're getting paper checks to make up the difference today. Second, Utahns seem to be getting a late start on their holiday shopping this year. Third, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made a surprise visit to Ukraine today to assure that country it still has American support. Right now, 45 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, it's been 45 days since Hamas went into Israel, committed atrocities, took over 200 plus people hostage, and we're continuing to follow closely what is being negotiated and navigated as it relates to those hostages, including Americans. And a large number of women and children and older folks that have been taken as part of that. The fighting continues to intensify in Gaza, around hospitals, civilian centers. The urgency for hostages to be released and a deal to be reached is increasingly urgent. And so we're trying to keep our eye on all of that. And I think one of the most important things for everyone to keep in mind when we talk about this kind of hostage negotiation, this is not normal hostage negotiation. This is not people sitting around a table or people coming together. This is through a friend of a friend or a friend of an enemy of a friend. This is very different. And so this is, again, not direct. None of this is direct conversation. So it's not direct going from Israel to Hamas. It's not direct U.S. to Hamas. A lot of it's going through Qatar, through other intermediaries. And so this is a very complicated process. National Security Advisor Jon Finer appeared on Meet the Press yesterday with Kristen Welker, gave some updates on the state of negotiations, and they're keeping the details pretty high level because they don't want to risk anything as they go through this process.
Well, what I can say at this point is that some of the outstanding areas of disagreement in a very complicated, very sensitive negotiation have been narrowed, that I believe we are closer than we have been in quite some time to getting this deal done. And we are following this minute by minute, hour by hour, and have been for a number of weeks up to and including the president, for whom this is a major priority. We really need to adhere to the mantra that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. You know, sensitive negotiations like this can fall apart at the last minute. So we're not going to outline all the details of what is still being discussed, but until the deal is done and people actually start to move and depart, nothing is finalized. And so we're going to stay at this until we get to that point.
That's Deputy National Security Advisor Jon Finer yesterday on Meet the Press. And I think he defined some of the things that are really important to keep in mind. Nothing is agreed to until everything is agreed to, and nothing is done until everything is done, and the hostages are in a safe place. Kristen Welker asked Jon about the state of the hostages, how recently we had discovered that 2 of the hostages had died or had been killed in that process. Those bodies had been discovered by the Israeli forces. Kristen Welker asked the Deputy National Security Advisor what the conditions were, what else they knew, and here's how he responded.
So one of the things that's incredibly challenging about this situation is we don't have good fidelity, good information about the condition and the status of all of the hostages who are being held. Obviously, they're being held by Hamas. The United States government does not speak directly to Hamas. Hamas has indicated that there are a significant number of hostages that they are holding who are alive. Those are the hostages we are negotiating for. We cannot speak to exact numbers being held, exact numbers who are alive or who potentially tragically have been killed, like the 2 that you mentioned. But we know that the number is significant, and we know that it is, for all these reasons, very important that this happen as quickly as possible.
Last week, I spoke with Karen DeYoung, who's the national security reporter for the Washington Post. She laid out some of the reasons why these negotiations are such a laborious process to actually get done.
I think what's important to realize about these negotiations is it's not a group of people sitting around a table and kind of hashing out the details. It's an extremely laborious process where the Americans are talking to the Israelis. They're both talking to the government of Qatar, which is talking to Hamas, since neither of them actually speak directly to Hamas. And their representatives are carrying on these talks, and then it has to go back to their capitals certainly in Hamas's case, back to whoever's in charge to kind of give an answer.
Karen also provided us last week on this show the status of some aspects of the deal, along with some details about what's being considered as they try to move this forward.
Hamas people eventually said, okay, you can have somewhere between 50 and 100. I mean, I think more than 50 women and children among the captives that they would let go if there was a pause of 3 to 5 days and more humanitarian aid came into Gaza, and some women and minors, they're basically teenagers who are in jail in Israel, are released. This then went to the Israelis, who since late Tuesday have been sort of mulling it over and haven't, to my knowledge, yet today given a response. I think they're opposed to any kind of a pause of more than a few hours.
So again, this continues to remain very fluid. We're trying to keep up to date on everything that we do know. And a lot of this is, of course, being done under the radar because, as we have noted, none of this is done until all of it's done. Nothing's agreed to until everything's agreed to. And nothing is really completed until those hostages are safely returned. And in these kinds of negotiations, anything can go sideways or cause the negotiations to go sideways. And especially when you're going between so many things, it's like an old game of telephone where you're kind of passing messages along and hoping they get interpreted properly, and then they get to the right person, and the right person makes the right decision, and then it comes back through the chain. It can be very complicated, and little details, little nuances that often get lost in those translations can upend the entire process and put you back to square one. And so this is extremely tenuous, all of this. And so that's why we're not getting a lot of details really coming out of anywhere, not coming out of Israel, not coming out of the State Department. All of those things are really complicated. In fact, earlier today, White House Strategic Communications Director John Kirby spoke about the nature of the negotiation and how it takes a degree of belief in good faith when they actually do get to that point where a final deal, they can say, has been reached.
It's a negotiation, and it's over human lives. You do the best you can going back and forth with the arrangements, which we're doing right now. And at some point, when you come down to executing, when you hit go, then you're counting on everybody to meet their commitments. And that's what we're doing.
And so what we do have a pretty good sense is that they're getting pretty close to an agreement with Hamas. The agreement seems to be the release of an initial 50 civilians in exchange for Israel allowing in more aid, including fuel, a limited pause in the fighting. And that's according to a number of reports from a number of different outlets across the country and around the world. But again, at this stage, no firm deal in hand. There's kind of a draft agreement that's been floated between the parties. Really difficult as this goes between all the different entities, a lot of it going back through Qatar and some of those key folks there. So a lot of that is just going to be very difficult for us to navigate, but we are going to watch it very closely. The one thing that I think has been most disturbing to me in all of this is, one, the Red Cross has not been able to see or to have contact with any of the hostages. So no one knows the state of the hostages, what their conditions are, what their physical condition is, how any of that is playing out. So that's a very difficult thing. We've also not heard a lot about the Americans that are being held hostage. And this is one that's a little bit of a head scratcher for me. We have at least 9 to 12 American hostages that are in Gaza being held by Hamas. And why that is not a bigger top line headline focus across the country. We seem to be so distracted with so many other things that I don't think are nearly as important as the lives of these American citizens and our allies and those citizens, innocent citizens from Israel, who are being held by Hamas. We'll continue to watch all of that here on Inside Sources and KSL News Radio. That wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources. We'll step aside for some top of the hour news, but don't go anywhere. We got a big hour number 2 coming at you, coming up next, right here on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.
This is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: holiday shoppers hitting the stores later than they have the past couple of years. Economists say it's actually normal to start shopping later. It was the pandemic that made it easy to shop early. The Zions Bank senior economist Robert Spendlove says the economy is still feeling the effects.
If you think about the pandemic kind of like throwing a rock into a lake, there are those impacts, those ripple effects. And so we're past the big shock, but now we continue to see some of those ripple effects.
Spendlove adds that an expensive 2023 and a dropping consumer confidence index has not incentivized consumers to get their shopping started early. Federal authorities have charged a man from Tooele with threatening a Palestinian advocacy group. The Justice Department says Kevin Brent Buchanan left threatening voice messages, and that could get him up to 5 years in prison if he's convicted. Buchanan was arrested last Friday. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT software, is in open revolt with more than 500 employees of the company now threatening to quit. ABC's Mike Dubusky explains.
In a letter, OpenAI employees say its board of directors is incapable of overseeing the company. It comes after that board fired OpenAI CEO Sam Altman on Friday, claiming he was not consistently candid with them. Altman was then hired by Microsoft to run a new AI research team. OpenAI's employees are demanding the current board resign and that Altman be reinstated. Otherwise, they'll quit and join the new Microsoft team led by Altman. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average up on the day, 203 points right now. The NASDAQ is up 159. And our KSL weather, we'll see some sunshine for travelers tomorrow and the next day, but then maybe some rain and snow. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:02.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Tonight at 10. Ever felt trapped in a group text?
You get it from family, friends.
Not only is it annoying,
your phone is just ping, ping, ping.
It can have serious effects.
We have limits on how much we can process at one time.
New research shows it's extra hard on women. KSL's Deanie Wimmer digs into the dilemma.
It's real. It is real.
To help you take control of technology without ruining relationships. Group text overload alert. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
Up to a 30% upfront bonus and 12% per year guaranteed growth for retirement. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and these are the highest guarantees with annuities I have seen in my life. When interest rates are this high, there are silver linings, and annuity guarantees are one of them. Up to a 30% bonus upfront for retirement income. On $100,000, that's up to $42,000 guaranteed in the first year. And it's because of the economy and its high interest rates. Don't let anyone, especially another financial advisor, tell you it's not true. Up to 30% upfront just for opening an account and up to 12% per year guaranteed income growth. Don't miss out. This won't last forever. If you have an old 401k, get up to 30% upfront and 12% guaranteed growth for income today.
Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
A crash in Murray blocking traffic. This is eastbound 5300 south, about 200 west in that vicinity east of I-15. Traffic is getting by in the far left and far right lanes. Give someone a watch that becomes a family heirloom. J. Brooks Jewelers. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather: clouds clear up this afternoon, and Tuesday should be mostly sunny with a high of 45. And there's a chance of rain on Thursday, possibly changing to snow on Friday. And right now, we're looking at 45 degrees, partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Today is President Joe Biden's 81st birthday. But as the president celebrates another year around the sun, Democrats are worrying about his age going into the 2024 presidential election. Many are looking at polling and are concerned that this is a significant vulnerability for the president. But beyond that headline, there are a host of other vulnerabilities that might be a bigger deal and a bigger problem for the president that he should be even more concerned about going into 2024. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, while we should be just celebrating the president's birthday today, which we will, big shout out to President Joe Biden, 81st birthday. He continues to set a record every day that he's in the Oval Office as the oldest president, and we should celebrate that. I think he's going to have some coconut cake today with his family. I think that's his favorite, so we'll celebrate all of that. Many people have been pointing out, and it's almost been stunning to me, how much focus there has been on the president's age today by Democrats and Republicans alike. Everyone seems to be concerned about what this means for 2024. That's the headline. But I think there's much more to it, and there are things that are far more important that the president needs to focus on than worrying about something he cannot control, which is his age. So last week, I spoke with Carly Cooperman, and Carly, of course, is the CEO and partner of Schoen Cooperman Research. And they know how to get to the real issues underneath the headlines and underneath the top-line numbers. Carly highlighted for us three crucial challenges that President Biden is really facing in terms of headwinds going into 2024.
First, we're looking at, broadly speaking, Biden continues to suffer from low favorability, low approval ratings. People are not happy with the job he's doing. But moreover, it's really tied to the economy, because despite the fact that we see some strong metrics around the economy, we are not in a recession right now. Unemployment is low. Job growth is strong. The economy is much better than it was when Biden took office. Voters have continued to give him very negative ratings on the economy because they're not feeling the economic benefits that he is trying to tout. And, from their perspective, their cost of living is still high. Gas prices are high. Inflation is still there. Interest rates, all of these things that are impacting their day-to-day life make them feel unhappy with Biden's handling of the economy. And moreover, almost this disconnect is frustrating to voters because, Biden's trying to communicate, no, look and see these benefits, while at the same time, I think that's even more frustrating to voters because they don't feel it. So for better or for worse, the president is held and tied to the economy. And so as long as this continues, this is going to be a challenge he faces.
So that's Carly Cooperman talking about these three vulnerabilities that the president has beyond his age, that everybody's making the top line headline issue of the day. But this vulnerability around the economy, I think, is really significant. And I think it's an area where the Biden White House is really missing the messaging. As Carly pointed out, the metrics are actually really strong, better than when President Biden came into office. But the thing that the Biden White House is forgetting is that the American people are not economists. They're consumers. And they're having a hard time consuming because it's expensive. And they feel that cost of living going up. It's harder for them to fill up the grocery cart. It's harder to fill up the gas tank. It's harder to deal with the things that they're trying to buy for their children or make the mortgage payment or whatever it may be. And so even though there are a lot of metrics that the White House can point to, and President Biden points to often in terms of Bidenomics, there's such a disconnect with what the American people are living and experiencing. So it's not about his age. It's about the fact that the president is speaking to the American people as if they were all economists, and they are not. We are all consumers. And because of that, what the president is saying and what we're feeling and living around our kitchen tables is very, very different. Now, the second vulnerability that Carly Cooperman shared with us as it relates to President Biden rolling into 2024 beyond his age is the war in Israel and the war in Ukraine and his handling of it and how the American people see the weakness in terms of what that looks like.
And additionally, the war in Israel is dividing the Democratic Party. Right now, majorities of Americans broadly support Israel's right to defend itself. But as this war goes on, as the casualties continue to become uneven, there's already divide in the Democratic Party, and surely there's going to be challenges to Biden's, strong support in terms of defending Israel. And it's going to be something that he's going to have to face, both in terms of appeasing his party and just generally fatigue that Americans may or may not start to feel if this drags on, in addition to the war in Ukraine, in terms of giving funding to these countries and weapons and support. And so that is something, especially as it relates to Israel, that it's too soon to tell, but it's certainly going to play out over the next 4 to 6 months.
And then finally, Carly said that the third-party candidates could also be a significant challenge for President Biden rolling into 2024. Again, well beyond some of the challenges and some of the things that people are talking about because it's the president's birthday today.
And then the last point I'll make is that in terms of the 2024 presidential race, the polls coming out are not good for Biden. It is still very early, but what we're seeing with these emergence of third-party candidates are real concerns for the Biden administration, because even though these are not real viable threats from a perspective of winning enough electoral college votes to become president, these are all people who can take away votes from Joe Biden and tip the scale to Donald Trump, and that could be very harmful for Biden.
So those are the three things beyond it being the president's birthday today. So again, that's what we're trying to get past is while people are saying that they are a little bit worried about the president's age. In fact, the most recent Monmouth University poll showed 76% of voters believe that President Biden is too old to effectively serve a second term. And interestingly, just 48% thought that the former president, Donald Trump, who's 77 years of age, is not too old. And so the more important thing to me is not the age, it's the ability and the direction on the key issues. And what the American people are saying is we've got to get to the key issues because they are the key issues. And I think that is the reason, above anything else, that the president is trailing in hypothetical head-to-head matches with either former President Trump, but he's also behind with other Republican potential nominees. Nikki Haley has an even larger lead in a hypothetical matchup with Joe Biden, as does Governor DeSantis from Florida and Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey. And so he's trailing in all the hypothetical matchups. The third-party candidates will be the other thing that we'll keep our eye on that might be a contributing factor on all of that. So is it the age or is it the issue? I think it's the issues that really are carrying the day. And as we always come back to, it is the economy. That is where it begins for the American people and the American voters, is what's happening in their pocketbooks, what's happening around the kitchen table, what are they able to afford, and what does that look like? Because, again, we are a consumer society. And what we consume, if it's costing more, people are feeling it, and they're none too happy about any of that. And so those are the things that I think the president has to deal with far more than the age issue. A lot of people will poke at the age issue, and that's fine, but I don't think that's the most significant vulnerability that President Biden has rolling into 2024. So all of those are important things beyond the headlines. A big thanks to Carly Cooperman, CEO and partner of Schoen Cooperman Research. She always helps us get beyond the numbers and the top line to get underneath to what is actually going on, getting that pulse of the American people. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Utah elects a new member of Congress this week. Hear the results and analysis right here of Utah's new delegation to Washington. We'll have the latest on Utah's morning news and analysis with David Dujanovic and Boyd Matheson. Plus updates, traffic, and weather in the afternoon. Decision 2023 this week on KSL News Radio.
Hey, we always talk about how special you are. It's one thing to say you're special. It's another thing for people to actually treat you special. Hercules Credit Union always treats you special, and they're doing it in a specific way right now. All you have to do is go and open a new checking account, and Hercules Credit Union will upgrade you to a premier status checking account, free of any monthly fees, and you get all the benefits of being a premier status checking account holder. You get ultimate identity theft protection, travel benefits, cellular care coverage, and a host of other travel perks and benefits, all from our friends at Hercules Credit Union. So they are treating you special. Now is a great time to go into any of their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, or Salt Lake City. Or as always with our friends at Hercules Credit Union, you can find them online at HerculesCU.com. They've been doing this since 1946, growing stronger together, and right now they're treating you special. Go check it out at HerculesCU.com.
Security alert! Dan, the laptop man here from PC Laptops. Microsoft has pushed out its final version of Windows 10 before it discontinues security updates for the platform. This is super important because running a discontinued operating system is a security concern, and it puts you at a much higher risk for not only viruses and malware, but for hackers getting into your computers, programs, and accounts, or even worse, hacking your webcam and spying on you. Don't worry, we can help you for free. If you have a PC you didn't buy from us, we'll take care of you. We'll give you a free Windows 11 security evaluation. Plus, while your computer is in for service, we'll scan it for malware and viruses for free. Remember, it can be any brand of PC. I don't care where you bought it. We'll scan it for free. Come into any PC Laptops locations right now or check us out at PCLaptops.com. That's PCLaptops.com, where we love you.
Is shopping for medical supplies online leaving you feeling intimidated and overwhelmed? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I want to share a real customer story with you.
The moment I walked into Alpine, I felt cared for. They pulled me into a private room, and the Alpine professional happily set up my CPAP machine, explaining everything I needed to know. The service didn't stop there. After I went home, Alpine called me a week later just to check on me. These guys really are the experts. Before Alpine, I was so stressed trying to navigate what I needed online by myself, but all the stress went away when I went to their store. They really do deserve 5 stars.
We know when you walk through our doors, you deserve to be cared for. Stop by any of our 11 locations and discover the Alpine Home Medical difference. When you need assistance, we're here for you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
AlpineHomeMedical.com.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News.
We're committed to letting you know exactly what's going on. On our show, we're going to bring you up to speed on what's happening in the world to this moment. At the same time, the news can be really burdensome. It can leave you feeling a little bit depressed and even a little bit more depressed. My Minute of News is just a moment to lift you up. I'm blessed that KSL has given me the freedom to talk about whatever I want. Literally, it is my minute of news. Sometimes it's pegged to what's happening that very day. Sometimes it might be something bizarre that you didn't know happening somewhere else in the world. To make you smile for a moment, even on a difficult day, and make you realize the world is still spinning. I am so honored that so many people have appreciated and enjoy the Minute of News every afternoon.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, after effects of the pandemic could be part of the reason Utahns are getting a late start on holiday shopping this year. Second, a man from Tooele facing federal charges accused of threatening a Palestinian advocacy group. Third, employees of the top artificial intelligence company are threatening to jump to a competitor unless their boss gets reinstated. Right now, 45 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, as you all know, tomorrow is Election Day here in Utah. Nothing says Thanksgiving like a little special election going on. And, of course, we moved all of the elections. Normally that first Tuesday of November became tomorrow, the 21st. And, of course, you still have a chance to get your votes in. And one of the big races that we've been keeping our eye on, obviously, is the special election race to fill Utah's Congressional District 2 seat in the House of Representatives. And so as part of that today, we wanted to get to some closing arguments. We always like to get to that final. What is the last thing you want voters to think about before they cast that ballot or drop it in the mailbox? Got to be in today. So we reached out to the big three candidates that are competing for the seat to get their closing arguments for voters ahead of the big day tomorrow. So let's begin with Kathleen Reby, a Democratic candidate running to represent the 2nd Congressional District in the House of Representatives. Here is her final pitch to voters.
I've been working for this state for 7 years now, and I've learned about what really resonates with families across the state. In my time as a senator, I've worked with people across the state with water issues, school issues, search and rescue, police and fire, safety on railroads. And so in my capacity for being a senator, I've learned about every district. I've learned about needs across the state. So I think this has prepared me well for being a representative in Congress. We are all concerned about similar things. You know, we're all worried about our families, and we're worried about the future, and we're worried about how we're going to get our next paycheck. There's a difference between districts in the state, but what I've heard across the state is people are concerned about the same things. They're concerned about inflation, their children, the Great Salt Lake, and their public lands. And so a lot of this touches upon state issues, but it also touches upon federal issues. And so as a mother and a homeowner and a teacher that has worked for the last 22 years in our school districts, I feel the same way they do. And my message hasn't changed. I have stayed consistent with the facts that we all are struggling right now, and we believe that this is an important time in history where we need to have law and order. We need to have more common sense in the House, which we haven't seen. And so I think that that's going to be a big difference between someone who's going to step into the same spots that her predecessor were in and someone who's going to vote differently. I would never vote to shut down the House. I would never vote to shut down the government. I know what it's like to show up at a job every day, and I think Congress should as well. Utahns want someone who is in touch with them, who reaches out to them, and is not influenced from people outside of Utah. And I've worked with many different senators and representatives to support their bills as well. So I know what it's like to be bipartisan, and I know what it's like to pass bills with bipartisan support.
That was Kathleen Reby, Democratic candidate running in the 2nd Congressional District. Let's shift now to January Walker. January is the United Utah Party candidate running in that special election in the 2nd Congressional District. Here's her closing argument to voters.
We're seeing
some very fascinating things happen within our nation, especially in Utah. Utah is probably one of the most unique places politically. So for the last 10 years, 18 to 28 especially, they actually out-register the major parties, Republicans and Democrats, as being independents or unaffiliated, that purple voter bloc, people that are disenfranchised with the system. And because of that, people deserve choices and opportunities to have their voices represented on the ballot when they no longer affiliate with the major parties. I would say to everybody that feels politically homeless, that feels like they're not represented anymore and feels like maybe their vote doesn't go as far, that messaging isn't true. It's not real, because the purple voters in this state, there's been some research done into it. They actually show that we're about 41% moderate. And so instead of allowing the two major parties to split the moderate vote, as we've allowed them to do for decades, instead, we need to stand and unite together and really vote for our best interests. And our best interests are people that understand the economy. It's people that understand the power of the purse. And it's people that are willing to step up to the bad behavior that we're seeing in Washington, whether that comes from politicians, lobbyists, our American oligarchs, the Federal Reserve. It's time to start sending people there that will put you first. And that's really what it means when you choose to vote outside of the two-party system. You are putting yourself first. For us in our group, we're not going anywhere. We're continuing to build, and we are here to stay. And so I hope that people would see that as a beacon and join us.
That's January Walker, United Utah Party candidate running to represent the 2nd Congressional District. And then finally, let's go to Celeste Malloy. Reached out to her campaign, and she is the Republican candidate running to replace former Congressman Chris Stewart in the 2nd Congressional seat. Here is her response to her final message to voters before Election Day.
There are a lot of people who could probably do a decent job representing the 2nd District, but there's nobody in this race who knows this district or cares about this district the way I do. From the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument to the Great Salt Lake, I've been immersed in the issues that matter to people in the 2nd District for several years now in a variety of capacities, and I'm ready, willing, and able to serve this district. I have experience on the Hill. I can get to work quickly in the middle of a Congress. I have contacts. I know nearly all of the local elected officials, and that matters. Somebody else could do it. They could catch up, but I'm already there. And I have the passion. I have the drive. I want to be a really available member of Congress. I want people to know how to get a hold of me. I want them to be able to tell me whether they think I'm doing a good job. And I'm ready and excited to represent the people who live in this district. The rural voters really turned out. They've felt the power they have in this district. And whatever happens to me, they'll always know that they have a reason to turn out in this district. They can decide the outcome. I want to be a good representative and represent everybody in the district. I've said that from the first day. You have to represent this district as a whole. But I'm glad that a part of the district that hasn't always felt powerful or heard now knows how much power they have. So that will have made it worth it. It's not lost on me that a lot of them didn't know who I was 6 months ago. I've been out working hard. I've done what I can to get my message in front of people. But I'm so grateful that people were willing to listen, that they were willing to hear what I had to say. They were willing to learn about me, and that they've responded so well to the message. I think that's something that every voter should be proud of, and I think it's something that people should look at as proof that our system really does work. You don't have to be a celebrity or a millionaire to run for Congress, and the House of Representatives is supposed to represent the people, and that's the message that I've been bringing, and I feel like the people have responded to that message, and I'm just really grateful and really excited.
Those are the closing arguments for those running for the 2nd Congressional District. Again, all the Election Day coverage tomorrow. Stay tuned to KSL News Radio. We will have you covered beginning to end as that plays out tomorrow in a host of different races, from mayoral races to commission races to the special congressional race and everything in between. We've got you covered here on KSL News Radio. Stay with us throughout Election Day tomorrow right here. We'll step aside for some bottom-of-the-hour news, and when we come back, we're going to take a closer look at the agreement between the United States and China on fentanyl. There's a lot more to it than what's on the surface. We'll dive into that coming up next. Stick around.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. The University of Utah will host the third and final debate in this year's presidential campaign. The Commission on Presidential Debates announced the dates and venues for next year's debates this morning. They include San Marcos, Texas, Petersburg, Virginia, as well as Salt Lake City, and a vice presidential debate is planned for Easton, Pennsylvania. The last debate set for October 9th in Kingsbury Hall on the University of Utah campus. Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall was delighted with the announcement. She said on X that we'll be ready again to provide a welcoming environment for the candidates, the audience, and viewers worldwide. Developers in Ogden releasing plans to revive the Union Station area downtown. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson has more.
A big crowd gathered on Wednesday to see what developers have worked up. Some plans include utilizing the train station the way people did 100 years ago. They want to have the front runner bring people right to the station, and they'll walk through the big grand lobby to get the full train riding experience.
The area will also be home to restaurants, shopping, and apartments. So far, the plans are only drafts, and they're still accepting public comments. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. First Lady Jill Biden welcomed the arrival of the White House Christmas tree today. This year's tree is an 18.5-foot tall Fraser fir from Klein Church Nursery in Fleetwood, North Carolina. The First Lady was joined by military families as part of her Joining Forces initiative. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average ending trading today up 203 points. The NASDAQ is up 159 points on the day. The S&P 500 up 33. And coming up, KSL weather. Looks like things are going to be great for travel over the next couple of days. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistent scent, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Amanda, we have a lot of responsibilities as parents. You feel obligated to teach your kids many things, if not all things in life sometimes, which is a little overwhelming. But it's surprising how little we talk to our kids about money.
Financial responsibility.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited to tell you about what UCCU is doing, Utah Community Credit Union. As part of their mobile banking, they now have this thing called Learn and Earn.
Learn and Earn breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games like quizzes and trivia. And every time anybody in the family completes a topic, you earn points that can accrue and you can redeem for gift cards from places like Amazon, Apple, Walmart, and others.
So literally, they are paying you to learn about financial responsibility.
It really is a great way to go, and it's fun for the whole family. Learn and Earn is part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart youth banking program that helps kids, teens, and parents have fun while learning and becoming financially literate together.
UCCU Mobile Banking now presents Learn and Earn. UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Valley Freeway traffic still in good shape, but we still have crews on the scene of this Murray crash eastbound 5300 southeast of the I-15 overpass, and they are still blocking a left lane of travel. Join the Utah Symphony for the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. Tickets start at $21. Get yours today at utahsymphony.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, clouds clearing up this afternoon and evening. Tuesday should be mostly sunny with a high of 45, and there's a chance of rain on Thursday, possibly changing to snow on Friday. Right now, partly cloudy, 45 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, last week at an important meeting in San Francisco, President Biden met with China's President Xi. They did a number of things. They importantly restored military-to-military communications, which was vital. But they also came to an agreement of sorts on the precursors to fentanyl. Over the last few days, more information has been trickling out in terms of what that agreement was and is and what the trade-offs might be. And we want to get beyond the headlines of that. And to help us do that, Carmen Pond is joining us, a global health reporter for Politico. Carmen had a piece in Politico Pro today talking about what some of those trade-offs were, what the agreement really means. And Carmen, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So give us a sense in terms of, for our listeners who didn't follow too closely, what exactly was agreed to, and then let's kind of break it down.
Sure. So at their meeting on Wednesday in California, President Biden and President Xi agreed to resume counter-narcotics cooperation, basically to try to work together to stop some of the chemicals that are used to produce fentanyl from leaving China and ending up in the hands of, drug cartels in Mexico that then, manufacture the illicit drug and send it up north to the United States. That's very important because China is seen as the main source of these chemicals. What makes it hard at times to control these chemicals is that they're also used for legal purposes. Companies that are sending these chemicals abroad would have to really know who their clients are. And this is one of the things that the U.S. has been asking for. But because of all the tensions between China and the U.S. over the last few years, this cooperation stopped a few years ago. And now the two presidents agreed to resume it. In exchange, the U.S. lifted sanctions on a Chinese entity. It's a public entity that they sanctioned in 2020 over what they called human rights violation regarding the Uyghurs and other Muslim minority groups in China.
And so unpack that a little bit for us. The Uyghurs, we hear about that at a high level in terms of a group that is clearly targeted for who they are and what they believe and how they live. And give us a sense in terms of what the sanctions were going back to 2020, why those sanctions were put in place, and then what this lifting of those sanctions actually means.
Sure. So in 2021, under the Trump administration, the State Department actually said that the Chinese oppression of Uyghurs considered a genocide. So China has allegedly detained more than 1 million Uyghurs out of a population of about 11 million that live in a region in China's in Xinjiang, which is a region in China's northwest. And according to the Council on Foreign Relations, China has also enslaved Uyghurs and sterilized them. So this entity that was sanctioned in 2020, and I'm trying to make sure that I have the name, is basically a police forensic institute that at the time the Commerce Department, which imposed the sanctions, said that it was involved in human rights violations against this community. And in 2016, there were human rights groups that actually said that this institute holds DNA information, DNA data of millions of Uyghurs that was taken without their consent, basically. And it was not exactly clear what they were trying to do with this information. So the sanctions meant basically that this institute didn't have any more access to U.S. technology to do their work. On the other side, the Chinese government has said that they use this institute to track narcotics, and that by imposing these sanctions, the U.S. is actually shooting itself in the foot, because on one side they're asking for China's cooperation on fentanyl, but on the other side, it impedes this entity from having access to technology that they need to, control narcotics and make sure that they don't end up in the wrong hands.
And so give us a sense, Carmen, in terms of the reaction to this, particularly from human rights activists. Does this seem like an interesting or counterintuitive trade-off in terms of, obviously the fentanyl issue is a big one. It's killing millions of Americans. And then you have the Uyghurs and this population that's being targeted. What are the trade-offs, and what's the reaction from some of those in the human rights space?
Sure. So one human rights researcher who is Chinese herself actually said that she was disappointed and frustrated because they had worked so hard to get the sanctions imposed by the U.S. on this institute, and now they felt basically that the Uyghurs and their problems and their persecution was traded for this deal. And they didn't minimize the fentanyl problem in the U.S., and they understand how big it is and how important it is for the administration to deal with it and to get China to, at least try to stop some of those chemicals from leaving the country and from going to drug cartels. But they said basically by giving in to China's request, they know that they can use this next time to, get even more benefits from their side. And they were saying that maybe there could have been other ways, something else to give in return to get China's cooperation on fentanyl. And, the State Department actually acknowledged this trade-off. And the State Department spokesperson, Matthew Miller, spoke about it late last week. And he said that they understood the trade-offs, but that they have to make tough decisions in this administration. And they looked at this and they understood that the sanctions on this institute were a major barrier in getting China to cooperate on fentanyl. And when they looked at that and they looked at the potential of saving American lives by securing this cooperation with China on fentanyl, they decided to lift this sanctions, basically.
And then finally, Carmen, before I let you go, anything else that you're keeping your eye on as this kind of takes the next step forward in terms of what we might see in terms of controls that might prevent some of those precursor chemicals leaving China, again, going to Mexico, where the cartels tend to put them into the fentanyl that's brought into the U.S. Anything that you're watching for on that front, or anything you're keeping your eye on as it relates to the Uyghur population?
The main thing that is to watch here is exactly what China does and whether it has a real impact, whether you see an actual decrease of this so-called precursor chemicals leaving the country and ending up in the hands of cartels who make it into illicit fentanyl. In return for these liftings of sanctions on Thursday, just next day, the Chinese government actually sort of warned Chinese companies about these chemicals that could be used to produce fentanyl. It was unclear exactly, what they were telling them. If you don't do this, what would happen? But basically, they were reminding them of their, legal requirements to make sure that basically they don't sell this to the cartels and that their clients are legitimate clients that will not end up producing illicit drugs that end up on the U.S. market. But for sure, some experts are afraid that this was a promise from the Chinese government that might not materialize into what the U.S. is hoping to get from this. So I think that's one of the things to watch going in the next few months. Matthew Miller, the State Department spokesperson, said that in 2019, when China issued a similar warning like they issued on Friday, they actually saw a big drop in, at the time it was, fentanyl going from China to the U.S., and they were hoping for a similar result here. But I think that's the one big thing to watch. Is China actually going to stick to its promise, and it's going to do what they promised the U.S. to do? And will we see a decrease in the amount of fentanyl, finally reaching the U.S. at the end of the day?
Yeah, great perspective, great insight as always. Carmen Pong, global health reporter for Politico. Carmen, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great piece by Carmen Pon in Politico Pro today, and looking at those sanctions that were lifted. And again, to me, this is a curious connection that China says, okay, we'll warn our companies not to send those precursor chemicals to Mexico, where they get shifted over to the cartels, turned into fentanyl that's brought into the United States. But the trade-off for China doing that, and we'll watch and see if China keeps its word and its promise, the State Department has lifted sanctions on Chinese companies that have been persecuting this Muslim minority group, the Uyghurs, and what the State Department itself has called genocide. And so to me, it's an interesting interconnection point, and I'm not sure it's the right interconnection point. Should addressing one issue, like fentanyl, be taken as the priority over a genocide? And we know over 1 million of these Uyghur population that are forced to work, that are denied their rights, that have so many other persecutions heaped upon them. It just, to me, seems like a really odd combination there. And so we're going to keep our eye on that to make sure that's the right thing. And more importantly, will China deliver on what it has promised when President Xi and President Biden met in San Francisco last week? All right, we'll step aside for one last break. When we come back, some final thoughts and an important event at the White House today. Presidential pardons handed out. We'll talk about that coming up next.
This is a monthly coordinated test of the broadcast stations and cable systems in your area. Equipment that can quickly warn you during emergencies is being tested. If this had been an actual emergency such as severe weather, earthquake, or evacuation, official messages would have followed the alert tone. This station serves the Utah operational area. This concludes the test of the emergency alert system.
Every year I tell myself, Doug, you can't procrastinate. It's time to get into Burt Brothers. Make sure that the vehicle I drive, the vehicles that Dee drives, and our family vehicles are all ready for winter. And Burt Brothers, boy, as these temperatures start to drop, soon the snowflakes are going to fall, the roads are going to be slick. You need peace of mind on Utah's snowy roads. Winter tires from Burt Brothers, they make all the difference. You can drive with confidence. Specialized tires designed to grip the road in the harshest conditions. They give you better traction, handling, shorter braking distances, and the gift of safety for you and your loved ones. And right now, save up to $130 back on 4 Bridgestone Blizzak tires through December 16th. That's only at Burt Brothers with complete auto care. They can take care of it all. Make sure you're not off on the side of the road with a little help from your friends at Burt Brothers. And there's a location for Burt Brothers near you.
Don't miss Provember at Lowe's. Save $80 on a DeWalt Combo Kit and save $20 on a 5-gallon pail of HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams All-Purpose Power Primer. Plus, MVP's members earn 3 times the bonus points on DeWalt and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams products. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Bonus points calculated before tax and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 11/22, subject to change.
Tonight at 10. Ever felt trapped in a group text?
You get it from family, friends.
Not only is it annoying,
your phone is just ping, ping, ping.
It can have serious effects.
We have limits on how much we can process at one time.
New research shows it's extra hard on women. KSL's Deanie Wimmer digs into the dilemma.
It's real. It is real.
To help you take control of technology without ruining relationships. Group text overload alert. Tonight on KSL 5 News at 10.
Hello, this is former Utah Governor Gary Herbert. Salt Lake City is fortunate to have a mayor who cares more about results than partisan politics, and that's why I've endorsed Mayor Erin Mendenhall for re-election. We don't always agree on policy, but she's always willing to listen and to collaborate. Erin is crisis-tested and has proven to be a strong leader for Salt Lake City. I hope you'll vote Erin Mendenhall for mayor and return your ballot today.
Learn more at erinmendenhall.com.
Paid for by Aaron Mendenhall for Salt Lake City.
Holiday Stories from Shane Company customers.
I didn't have a clue what to get my wife for Christmas this year.
I have everything I need.
Then it came to me, at Shane Company I could upgrade the diamond on her engagement ring.
Bigger and even more beautiful. I'll never say no to an upgrade.
As long as it isn't me.
Upgrade your Shane Company natural diamond center stone, studs, or pendant and only pay the difference from what you originally paid. 'Tis the season to shine. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
I'm a big believer in investing into what the wealthiest people in the world invest into. But it's not easy to know exactly what that is, and it hasn't always been possible for regular folks like you and I. But that's changing. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and if you've done a good job acquiring some assets, now is the time to consider private equity. Private equity is ownership of private companies that aren't traded on the stock market and in most cases are very exclusive. Examples could include ownership of apartments or nursing homes, dental practices, solar farms, you name it. Why do so many billionaires invest into private equity? Because of historically low correlation to the stock market and historically higher returns. If you have a goal with your portfolio but aren't there yet, call Trajan Wealth today. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. May require accreditation.
Shields is grateful for our customers, communities, and fellow associates. We give thanks for all the little things in our lives, the things we can often overlook. Thanksgiving reminds us to take the time to open our hearts, to pause, to reflect, and to pray. With grateful hearts, we praise God for family and friends, for health and freedom, and for the rich blessings we enjoy every day as Americans. Amen. Have a blessed Thanksgiving from all of us at Shields.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the last debate of next year's presidential campaign will take place at the University of Utah. Second, two companies that make nutritional supplements in Utah have been ordered to shut down by a federal court. And third, President Biden pardoned turkeys this morning. First Lady welcomed the White House Christmas tree this afternoon. Right now, 45 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as always, and on a Thanksgiving week. We turn our attention to some of the more important issues of the day. The president exercising what I think is one of the greatest and most powerful powers that a president is given, and that is the power to pardon. That's a big deal. It really is the ultimate power that a president can wield, and it's an interesting thing that we choose to do that at least once a year, rolling into Thanksgiving. And so today, President Biden at the White House went with Liberty and Bell to do the duty of the presidential pardon. Here's how President Biden let it all unfold at the White House today.
Even though Liberty and Bell are from Minnesota, they're named for a famous Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. These birds have a new appreciation of the word, let freedom ring. Based on their commitment of being productive members of society as they head to their new home at the University of Minnesota, I hereby pardon Liberty and Bell.
Liberty and Bell, turkeys, two turkeys from Minnesota have been officially pardoned by President Biden. I'm not sure where they're headed. Usually they send them off to a university to live out the remainder of their days, which is not too long, actually, for turkeys. They don't live that long. But the president has exercised that presidential pardon, which I think is actually the more important lesson of the day. Traditionally, as you go back and look at different presidential pardons, particularly of turkeys, it's usually an event that's filled with really bad one-liners, a lot of puns, and the president gets it done, and hopefully the turkeys don't go too crazy on camera. That's usually the goal of getting out of those as a staffer. But I think there is an important message in the presidential pardon because it is the ultimate power. So you think about that. A presidential pardon, whether it's to a turkey or whether it's to someone who's been locked up in prison, It's the ultimate power. It provides somebody the ultimate in a clean slate. Now, I started last year really focusing on presidential pardon, and I actually think it's something we all should exercise. So the big challenge as we roll into Thanksgiving week is to do this for yourself. If you've got somebody that you are holding a grudge against, if you've got some anger, some animosity, or some contempt for somebody, just mentally give them a presidential pardon. And remember, as we always talk about, you only have to forgive once in this life. To stay angry or to hold a grudge, you have to recreate and feed the negative emotion every single day. So I'm sure there's somebody in your life that you would hope would give you a pardon for maybe something that you've done wrong. So flip the script. This is your chance. You can be very presidential this week. If there's someone that you are holding some ill feelings towards, if you're holding a grudge, some anger, animosity, contempt, just grant a presidential pardon. Forgive them and move on. It is the ultimate exercise of power, and it'll change your world. It'll change the way you look at a whole host of individuals. And so give that a shot as you roll into your Thanksgiving week. Also want to sneak in here, after President Biden used his ultimate power to grant a presidential pardon to the turkeys, Liberty and Bell, he also delivered a little Thanksgiving message.
Now let me conclude on a serious note about why we have Thanksgiving in the first place. To remind ourselves, and we sometimes forget this, how we have so much to be thankful for as a nation. This week we'll gather with the people we love and the traditions that each of us have built up in our own families. We'll also think about the loved ones we lost. And let's remind ourselves that we're blessed to live in the greatest nation on this face of the earth. And today's ahead, our families and friends travel and come together to celebrate Thanksgiving. We can all give thanks to the gift that is our nation.
It is a gift, our nation, and it is something we all should be thankful for. And I think as we roll into the week, I think it's also important for us to keep in mind, not only should we be thinking about forgiveness, and we always talk about this in the context of what's going to roll out over the next 7 days. So you'll have Thanksgiving on Thursday. You'll have Black Friday, and, of course, a lot of big shopping moments there. Cyber Monday, the opportunity for you to spend more money, but to do it online. And then you have a great thing, Giving Tuesday, which I think is fabulous, where you have an opportunity to give to various charities and nonprofits. And I have always maintained that after Giving Tuesday, we should have a Forgiving Wednesday, and exercising that presidential pardon and just forgiving. It is the one thing that does more to not only help others, but it will change your life and your perspective on things as well. So just think of it in that sequence. Thanksgiving, Thursday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, Forgiving Wednesday, and give that a shot. Again, if you're holding a grudge, some anger, some animosity, or contempt, just grant a presidential pardon. You can do this. You actually have the power. You don't even need to be the president. You can actually grant a pardon to someone who has crossed your way, who's maybe offended you in some way over the course of the last year or the past few days. Who knows? But just grant a presidential pardon and move on, remembering that you really do only have to forgive once. But to hold a grudge, to have contempt, you have to recreate those negative emotions. You have to recreate that every day. You have to feed it. And when you feed the beast, it gets bigger. And it consumes more of you than it does anyone else. And so give that a shot as you roll into your Thanksgiving week. A little bit of forgiveness will go a long, long way and really help us. And also remember, too, tomorrow we're really pleased to have on the show today Madeline Page. And tomorrow at City Creek, of course, the Giving Machines kick off from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, an amazing thing all around the world, but kicking off tomorrow, and you can all be part of that, and it's an opportunity to do what we talk about on this show every day, and that's making a difference. So give that a shot tomorrow as well. That wraps it up for Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. Make sure you stay with KSL for special election coverage throughout the day tomorrow. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for listening. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see